What's up, guys? Mr. Schaefer here. We're back with story number 2 from our survivors of the Holocaust, the true stories of 6 extraordinary children. Okay, remember, this book is to go along with our Remember the Stars unit that we made. And on here, you're going to see, yesterday was Heinz' story about, him at 13 years old when everything kind of started going, and he was separated from his family, and he was had to switch and go to Great Britain instead to get rid from the Nazis. Even there, he was kind of just pushed out pretty much because they thought he was a spy, or thought that the German people coming over there, even though he was Jewish, they still didn't trust him or believe him. So kind of a scary story from him, and he would have gotten caught, right, if his mom didn't call him in time to go take a walk, right? The secret army was coming to get him. But it was just a little talk about, how all the stuff that he kind of went through, and so that's very familiar. Will be read in Remember the Stars, right? So today is Trude's story, and I didn't know if I put this back on there for you guys. I just want to show you. In the back, there's a glossary. There is a index, just like we learned about in our nonfiction unit. There's even some websites. There's even this really cool timeline as well that I'll post later on as we finish this book. But today is Trude's story, and here's a picture of her, actually. Okay, there was Heinz from yesterday's story, and there's Trude right there. So remember, these people actually were interviewed, right? These were alive survivors that came from the Holocaust, came from the war, and this author really just interviewed all these people, sat down with them, was able to talk and listen to their story, and then turned it right into this graphic novel. So it said, Trude did very well at school and won a scholarship to college. She went on to become a medical biochemist and a university lecturer. Trude is still searching for information about what happened to her mother. So we need to go back and read this story because something happens to her mom. If you look at the picture, let's kind of look at what the parents are. Looks like they're not really there. Look at the little swastikas on the wheels and the little helmets. All right, let's check out her story. What do you say? Here's the kind of front. I'm going to show you these 2 pages as I read. So you can pause that if you want to look at it or see it. It says, I'm back in my school days, Czechoslovakia, about 1938. Well, that's right in the middle of the war, right? I have a wonderful photograph, a class photograph of all of us. It's something that is a great pleasure to look at, but it's also extremely sad, because unfortunately, the Germans killed many, many children. 1.5 million innocent children were killed during the Holocaust. And when I look at these faces, I don't know who survived and who didn't. I only know that I survived. Why should innocent people, just because they were Jewish, be killed for no reason at all? We had the radio in our dining room, and Father was often listening. But when he had the news on, you could hear the shouting. And that, of course, was the typical Hitler speech making. It's on the radio, they were listening. There was no TVs back then. So, and there was Hitler giving his speeches. Everybody was afraid of this at the knock at the door. It always came at night, when they came to take people away, either to beat them or whatever. And that fear was there all the time I was at home. You feel insecure. You don't feel at ease. You can't relax, and you know that something is wrong. Just like in our book, right? The soldiers always came at night. Look, in our own house doesn't even feel safe. The Germans didn't come into Czechoslovakia until March 15th, 1939. I realized that my parents wanted to get the other children away to safety. And then my turn came. I left home on March 28th, 1939. The only thing I remember is getting into a taxi. I remember my mother and my father and my brother standing near me, but I cannot remember saying goodbye to them. I can't remember whether I hugged them kissed them, whether I cried. I have absolutely no recollection whatsoever. And how sad is that? It kind of reminds me of their book too about the Rosens, Sid and Ellen with Anne Marie. So they had to do that, right? They had to separate, get their children out so they could have a chance to live. We were traveling by train across Europe to London, but I ended up in a Wall's End down Tyne, near Newcastle, where a very kind family had offered to give me a home. I started getting homesick and I started feeling very, very poorly. Because A, I was missing my parents, and B, I didn't speak a word of English. So not only is she in a new country, but she can't speak the language either and has no parents, no friends. The food was totally different. I'd never eaten toast or porridge or Kuipers or marmalade. All of these normal English things. And I just basically cried for as long as I stayed with them. Soon I moved on from the age of 9, and I lived with so many different people. In those 4 years, those war years, I think I must have been through at least 15 to 20 different places. I never saw my parents after March 28th, 1939. Father was deported to a Nazi concentration camp called Auschwitz in Poland on April 19th, 1942. And by May 8th, 1942, he had been killed. There's them coming on the train. The last proper evidence I have that my mother was alive was when she was transported to a small concentration camp near Bratislava called Sirid. And I've been working for years and years to try to trace her. And I'm almost at the end of the trail. I received some evidence from a testimony given by somebody in 1962 who could have been on the same transport that my mother was taken on, and on a death march on which she would have been shot and killed. The impact on me is something that has never left me. Every single day, I rue the destruction of my family. To me, family is the most important building block for all human beings. And that's why I find it so hard today. Shipped away, never got back to her family. Trude had eventually settled well in a boarding school in Cornwall. She studied hard and went on to university. So that means that's like college, right? So there's another instance, man. We think about all these lives that were lost, but you got to think about people that did survive. Their life was shattered and changed forever. It's like Trude here. Never saw her family again. Never was able to track down her mom or her dad, and had to live a life of, being shipped around from place to place in a new country just to live. So that's it for today.